what is JenkinsX. So JenkinsX was created by James Strachan, who's also the creator of Groovy, Apache Camel, and was first announced in the year March 2018. It is designed from the ground up to be a cloud-native, Kubernetes-only application that not only supports CI/CD, but also makes working with Kubernetes as simple as possible. With one command, you can create a Kubernetes cluster, install all the tools you need to manage your application, create a build and deployment pipelines, and deploy your application to various environments. Jenkins is described as an extensible automation server that is configured via pipelines to be a continuous integration server, a continuous deployment hub, or a tool to automate just about any software task. JenkinsX provides a specific configuration of Jenkins, meaning you don't need to know which plugins are required to stand up a CI/CD pipeline. It also deploys numerous applications to Kubernetes to support building your Docker container, storing container in a Docker registry, and deploying it to Kubernetes. So this was the definition of JenkinsX. Now let us talk about the differences between Jenkins and JenkinsX. Unlike Jenkins, JenkinsX is a very opinionated and built to work better with technologies like Docker or Kubernetes. Having said that, both Jenkins and JenkinsX are deeply related, as everything that is done with JenkinsX can be done with Jenkins using several plugins and integrations. However, the best part of JenkinsX is that it simplifies everything. It lets you harness the power of Jenkins 2.0 using open source tools like Helm, Draft, Monocular, Chart Museum, Nexus, and Docker Registry to easily build cloud-native applications. In fact, it is this selection of tools and processes that makes JenkinsX unique and different from Jenkins and any other CI/CD solution. For example, JenkinsX defines the process while Jenkins tends to adapt to which process that is needed. JenkinsX adopts to a CLI API first approach. It relies on configuration as a code and embraces external tools. And these tools are nothing but Helm, Monocular, etc. On the contrary, Jenkins has a UI first approach with the configuration via UI and drives everything heavily by internal plugins. Plus, the JenkinsX preview environments enables developers to collaboratively validate changes integrated into the code base by creating a running system per pull request. So these were the differences between Jenkins and JenkinsX. Now let us talk about the features of JenkinsX. The first feature is automated CI/CD. JenkinsX offers a sleek JX command line tool which allows JenkinsX to be installed inside an existing or a new Kubernetes cluster, import projects, and bootstrap new applications. Additionally, JenkinsX creates pipelines for the project automatically. The next feature is environment promotion via GitOps. JenkinsX allows for the creation of different virtual environments for the development, staging, and production using Kubernetes namespaces. Every environment gets a specific configuration list of version applications and configurations stored in the Git repository. You can automatically promote new versions of applications between these environments if you follow the GitOps practices. Moreover, you can also promote code from one environment to the another manually and change or configure new environments as needed. The third feature is the extensions. It is quite possible to create extensions to JenkinsX. An extension is nothing but a code that runs at a specific time in the CI/CD process. You can also provide code through an extension that runs when the extension is installed, uninstalled, as well as before and after each pipeline. The next feature is the serverless Jenkins. Instead of running the Jenkins web application, which continuously consumes a lot of CPU and memory resources, you can run Jenkins only when you need it. During the past year, Jenkins community has created a version of Jenkins that can run classic Jenkins pipelines via the command line with the configuration defined by the code instead of the usual HTML forms. And the last feature that we are going to discuss is the preview environments. Though the preview environment can be created manually, JenkinsX automatically creates preview environments for each pull request. This provides a chance to see the effect of changes before merging them. Also, JenkinsX adds a comment to the pull request with the link for the preview for the team members. So these were the features of JenkinsX. Now let us talk about the working of JenkinsX. So as you can see the diagram on the screen, so this is the overall architecture of Jenkins. What happens here is the developer commits and pushes the changes to the project's Git repository. JenkinsX is notified and runs the project's pipeline in a Docker image. This includes the project's language and the supporting frameworks. In the next step, the project pipeline builds, tests, and pushes the project's Helm chart to Chart Museum and its Docker image to the registry. Next, the project pipeline creates a PR with the changes needed to add the project to the staging environment. Then JenkinsX automatically merges the PR to the master. JenkinsX is notified and runs the staging pipeline. And in the final step, the staging pipeline runs Helm, which deploys the environment, pulling Helm charts from the chart museum and Docker images from the Docker registry. Kubernetes creates the project's resources, typically a pod, service, and ingress. So this was the overall working of JenkinsX. Now let us talk about the installation of JenkinsX. So in this session, I'm going to talk about installing JenkinsX on Windows as well as Linux platform. So if you talk about the installation on Windows, here the prerequisite is that you need Docker and Kubernetes installed on your system. So once you have the prerequisites completed, what you can do is you can right click on the menu and start the command prompt and run the following commands as an admin. So as you can see here, at the shell prompt, execute a PowerShell.exe command to download and install the Choco binary and set the installation path so that the binary can be executed. When you open the PowerShell, you have to execute this command here, as you can see. Once you run this command, you need to install JenkinsX using the Chocolate package, which is a third-party application. So the command for that is choco install JenkinsX. And you can update to the latest version of JenkinsX using the Chocolate by the command choco upgrade JenkinsX. So if you're using Scoop, then there's this command called scoop install JenkinsX or JX. And to upgrade the JX binary, you need to run the command scoop update JX. So these were the simple steps that you need to follow for installing JenkinsX on Windows. And if you talk about Linux operating system, these are the steps that you need to follow. So first, you need to download the JX binary archive using the command. This is the command. You need to run this command in the command prompt or the terminal of the Linux operating system. And if you don't have the JQ installed on your Linux OS, then you can run this command. As you can see here, this is the first step. In the second step, you install the JX binary by moving it to a location in your executable path using the command sudo mv jx user local bin. So this is the second step. And with this step, your JenkinsX installation is almost complete. And just to verify whether JenkinsX has been installed on your system, what you can do is you can run this command, which is the third step, jx space hyphen version. So if you run this command, you'll be able to see the latest version of Jenkins. So this was all about the installation of Jenkins.